Good morning, and this beautiful morning. That was good. Let's try one more. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, that was really good. Hello. Anyhow, it's nice to be here in a loving congregation. I will invite Dan Downson to come forward and light his chalice and give us our affirmation of covenant, which is in your bulletin.
I light this chalice with these words. Open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Open our minds to learn what is true. Open our hearts to love one another. Please join me in the affirmation of covenant, which is printed, which you will find in your order of service, saying,
Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other. I stumbled across that poem in a Google search for poetry about mosaics. I couldn't find out much about the poet. She's a white South African whose day job is doing translations for some government agency in Pretoria. She calls herself an undercover poet come government official. Second is evidently not her surname, but an artifact of her having to start a second place on the web to post her poetry. On her first site, her name was simply Margaret Alice. In a short autobiographical sketch on her second site, she says, continuing life as Margaret Alice second, seconds in parentheses there, is confusing, but I could not find my way in the chaos of my first posting site. Perhaps her relationship to the website making process is like her relationship to translation. She says she loves languages for the music in it and suffered the grammar and the other rules for the joy of hearing the cascading sounds rhythmically spilling over me. Isn't that lovely? Her poem, My Beloved as a Mosaic, expresses a romantic sense of connectedness in what sounds like a very intimate personal relationship. But its images struck me as classic mystical expressions of beloved community, the realization of justice, love, and spiritual transformation among people. The kind of community where we are taking care of all we love, offering each other the greatest gift, my trust in your heart as I receive the trust you have in me. What a wonderful bond. And why should an intimate, personal, romantic relationship be different in spirit from that wonderfully just, loving, spiritually transformative bond that beloved community implies? She writes of the light passing through my crystal lamp, the prism, creating 1,000 rainbows like my soul reflecting my beloved in a mosaic of interacting bits, the lamp, symbol of my soul. I picture a lamp with a cut glass base. The light might issue from the bulb above or from the sun through the window. Bits of light interact with the glass to reveal the inner beauty of the light. Isn't that a neat metaphor for the spiritual transformation that emerges in that ideal we hold of beloved community? A mosaic of interacting bits. She's put the stones or bits of glass that make up a mosaic in motion. Or perhaps she is thinking like an artist, seeing in the juxtaposition of the materials, colors, shapes, and so on, the ways they relate, blend, contrast, enhance or bound each other. A number of interactions, harmonies, and tensions. And the lamp, a symbol of my soul. Rainbows on the outside, dreams on the inside. And the degrees of trust required to accommodate the realization of justice, love, and spiritual transformation among people. I find it a very engaging metaphor. And it gives a spark of life to an otherwise static image of a mosaic and some added complexity to the metaphor of mosaic-making that our Unitarian Universalist Association has chosen to represent our endeavors to create beloved community in and beyond our congregations. I mentioned last week that the UUA has just published on its website a lifespan curriculum called Mosaic. To me, this curriculum seems to have come out of nowhere, even though a number of colleagues I know and admire have been part of creating it. So part of my learning about it has been to figure out why I feel that way. And now that I put the pieces together, it makes some sense to me. The Mosaic program has its roots in a 2-day gathering of leaders from 8 Unitarian Universalist congregations that had made a commitment to pursue growth by developing greater multicultural awareness, and through that learning coming to understand their neighbors better, which put them in a position to develop trust and enduring relationships in the wider community, and thus become congregations where a much more diverse group from their neighborhood could feel at home. That gathering back in 2011 was called the Multicultural Growth Consultation. It was followed up in 2012 and 2013 with additional conferences called Mosaic Makers, attended by leaders of 12 and 16 congregations, respectively. The growing interest in these conferences led to a Mosaic Makers program at the 2015 UUA General Assembly in Portland, Oregon. That General Assembly was the first I'd attended since 2009. So I missed hearing all of the UUA staff reports during those years when those conferences were going on. And somehow I missed the Mosaic Makers program that was offered in Portland. I'm not surprised, since at that point we in New Orleans knew that the General Assembly was coming to us in 2017, and that was my motivation to attend the 2015 GA in Portland and the 2016 GA in Columbus, Ohio. We New Orleanians were paying attention to how GA works and what we would have to help organize in 2017. It was not until a few months after the General Assembly in New Orleans that the next and last Mosaic Makers Conference was held in San Diego. That was in the fall of 2017. The first 2 of those conferences were by invitation. This third one was open to leaders of all congregations, anybody who was interested. And I feel sure that conference was not on my radar because it was, for me, a year of great distractions, preparing for General Assembly as the first Trump administration took shape with all the shock and protest attending it, and then the hiring controversy in the UUA's southern region and the UUA's response, creating the Commission on Institutional Change, and the controversial reaction to that of the so-called gadflies. There was so much to distract a person. But the Commission's report, called Widening the Circle of Concern, was the next milestone in the development of the Mosaic program. So far, the work had consisted of giving UU leaders with the most experience in developing multicultural awareness and welcome a chance to articulate what had worked and what hadn't and why, developing a framework for thinking about and reflecting on their efforts, and engaging a wider circle of such leaders in ongoing reflection. The Commission report galvanized the UUA staff to develop resources to empower and encourage more congregations to do similar work and reflection. That was when the current suite of resources began to take shape. The Commission report, Widening the Circle of Concern, was published in 2020, and we all know what was happening then. Really, though, in many ways it feels like ancient history. We have only just emerged from the pandemic. And so now, as if from nowhere, but actually as the result of dedicated work by some of our congregations and a space for learning and reflection facilitated by the UUA staff, we have these excellent resources built on experience and success. The lifespan curriculum includes age-appropriate versions graded K through 1, 2 through 3, 4 through 5, middle school, high school, emerging adults, that's the new term for young adults, emerging adults, and general adults, that's most of us. And it has a version tailored for if you have an all non-white adult class, if that's desired in where you are. And the final lesson in each curriculum at each level is titled Creative Jam. Imagine the beloved community. In other words, each age group, after several lessons exploring race and culture at an age-appropriate level, is asked to imagine together what a community that realizes justice, love, and spiritual transformation among its members looks like in terms of values and skills. And as children come up through the church school, they reflect more deeply on these things as they develop the capacity. It becomes part of all of us living into our values with love at the center. To further encourage congregations to engage the Mosaic materials, there will soon be a UUA Mosaic certification program. You knew it was coming. And it will be similar to the Welcoming Congregation certification. I think that could be useful to keep us motivated, and it would be nice to have that affirmation from the UUA. But it'd be nothing to toot our horn about. The important thing is, are we learning yet another layer, another depth of friendship and welcome to our neighbors? Are we getting even closer to the ideal of beloved community? That would in itself be our reward for faithful work. May it be so. Amen.
I now invite Dan back up to sing Extinguish Our Chalice. Please join me in saying our closing words, which you'll find in the printed order of service, saying,
Go out into the world in peace, have courage, hold on to what is good, return to no person evil for evil, strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the suffering, honor all beings, and may we grow ever closer to the ideal of beloved community.